Thank you for joining us this week on Retiring Well. We have 4 really great topics lined up for you today. 1, how to invest in a rising tax environment. Today we know what the tax rates are, but what are they going to be down the road? What if we think they're going to go up? The second thing we're going to be talking about is the US dollar index. What does that mean and why is it important to you, whether you're a pre-retiree or a retiree? Then we're going to be diving into talking about safe withdrawal rates. We have this pot of savings and we want to retire. What can we expect to get out of that? And finally, to close the show, we're going to be talking about the need for life insurance. At various points in your life, that need may be different. It's important to know how it may benefit you.
Retiring Well, brought to you by Centennial Wealth Advisory, financial advisors specializing in retirement planning and serving all of Northern Michigan. Retiring Well, helping you plan for a successful and comfortable retirement. Retiring Well, plan to retire well.
Let's take a little bit of time and talk about maybe what you would do or how you would invest or do your retirement plan if we knew we were in a rising tax environment. So walk through this situation. Most people tend to have pre-tax investments, 401ks, IRAs, things that you contributed to or through employee compensation through your payroll get contributed to, right? So oftentimes you got a deferral, right, or a tax benefit for putting these in. So what if though we thought or believed that down the road taxes were going to be higher? Either A, because government reasons or whatever economic reasons, the tax brackets went up, or maybe your income was higher. The whole reason we were taught in school and all about investments is defer, right? Defer your taxation when you're in the lower tax, or I'm sorry, when you're in a higher tax bracket to when you're a lower tax bracket, right? It makes sense. But what if that is reversed? What if we believe it's going to be higher? So what are maybe some things you would do differently? Well, one, let's say you're in the 12% tax bracket currently. Well, maybe later you're going to be in the 22% tax bracket. So why would we want to defer at a lower only to pay at a higher? So maybe we would consider doing Roth contributions versus traditional contributions, meaning we would pay tax today versus paying tax tomorrow. When we think about building our wealth and doing this for retirement, we were taught that, hey, take it out when you're in this lower bracket. You're not going to need as much income as a retiree. Well, I haven't met too many retirees that in this line of work that wants to live in a much lower tax bracket than what they were while they're working. Maybe they don't need to have quite all the expenses they did, but likely they're still going to have some of the same things and want to do even more than they were while they were working because now they have time. So remember, as you're building your retirement out, consider these things. When am I going to pay the least amount in taxes? Is it today, tomorrow, or is it a future date down the road? That future date down the road is an unknown. So do the things that we know. Start building a not only diversified investment, but consider a diversified tax portfolio as well. Some of the folks that enter retirement and they have some of the strongest portfolios, not only with investments, is because they have different taxable accounts. Stuff that is deferred, stuff that they pay tax on as they use it, and stuff that is tax-free down the road. If you don't have that diversified tax portfolio yet, or you're concerned about what taxes look like in your retirement, give us a call. We'd love to walk through that for you and help you build a plan so you can retire well. To learn more about us, check out our website at cen-wealth.com.
What another great segment there on how to invest in a rising tax rate environment. What I think is really important is just understanding the different tax wrappers that your investment accounts are associated with, right? To me, there's basically 3 big ones, right? You've got your non-qualified accounts, which would be your typical brokerage accounts, right? Then you've got your IRAs, which are tax-deferred accounts, and then your Roth accounts, which are your after-tax money, okay? Now, it's really important to understand what the goals are for each of those different tax accounts that you have. Recently, I came across a scenario where a couple had all their Roth money in a very conservative investment. Okay, and if we think about it, if tax rates are going up, right, why would we want to be conservative with money that we've already paid taxes on, right? So if you have an appetite for risk, and this couple did, it made the most sense for them to take on more of a growth position in that Roth account because they've already paid taxes on it. They've got 10 to 15 years down the road before they're going to take money out of it, meaning that at that point in time, tax rates are probably going to be higher, and they won't have to pay taxes on that. So it's very important to understand which investments are doing what as far as taxes go.
You know, Nick, I like that you bring up the fact of where's your risk? Which tax account is it in? You know, one of the things that we find all the time is people are missing tax opportunities. I just ran across a case in the Cadillac office where they did a good job of accumulating. They actually were starting their process of being tax diversified, but in that process, they were missing a lot of opportunities. And so we were able to bring on our tax accountant. He was able to help coordinate a tax plan and actually capture some of those missed opportunities. That just put them ahead much further than what they would have been if they didn't start that learning process of where am I going to take on my risk, how am I going to take advantage of all of those tax opportunities that are really ever changing. So if you have any questions from what your tax plan is going to look like, feel free, give us a call. We can help teach you how you're situated and what you might need to do to continue your long-term tax plan. And coming up next, we're going to be talking about the dollar index and safe withdrawal rates. Stay tuned.
One consistent thing in our working years, taxes. In retirement, guess what? They follow you. Taxes are going to be there in retirement. It's important to have a holistic approach that tackles this and has a plan for this. In your early years, you're in the growth and accumulation phase. You're deferring taxes in most cases, and guess what? In retirement, you turn into a distribution phase, turning that into a paycheck, and now we have to worry about taxes. Our holistic retirement planning approach includes tax planning and implementing tax reduction strategies to minimize your liability and increase your cash flow. We are well versed with ever-changing tax laws and sources of tax-free retirement. Where you put your money matters, and the earlier you take these steps to change, the better. Here at Centennial Wealth, it's important to us to not only consider your investment plan, but have a holistic approach across the board with all of your assets. Take advantage of this opportunity now while you still can. We here in our Northern Michigan offices want to sit down with you with a complimentary, no obligations visit to review your whole plan and take a deep dive into that tax plan so you can be assured that you have a solid foundation not only for today, but for the next 20 to 30 years of your retirement.
When it comes to your financial future, what's the value of a truly objective opinion? As someone looking for financial guidance, you have choices. There are thousands of captive financial professionals who work as employees for large national insurance companies and brokerages. There are also many independent financial professionals who aren't bound to any given insurance company, investment strategy, or product. So what's the difference, and why does it really matter to you? Consider this. If you walked into a doctor's office with a sore throat, a bad cough, and a high fever, you'd expect that doctor to assess your symptoms, do a thorough diagnosis, and ultimately hand you a prescription written to cure your particular ailment. In other words, you'd expect the doctor to consider all the medications available and give you his or her absolute best thinking on what's best for you. On the other hand, if that doctor opened the cupboard and only had 3 or 4 prescriptions available, maybe those offered by his or her favorite pharmaceutical rep, most patients would immediately raise an eyebrow, suspicious that they might not be getting what was really in their best interest. The same may be true for your financial well-being. If your financial professional is an employee who's contractually bound to represent a given insurance or investment company, only offering their products while there are literally hundreds of others available, How sure can you be that you're being offered what's truly best for your situation? You don't walk into a tailor or seamstress shop to get clothing off some rack. You go for a custom tailored fit. And with something as important as your financial future at hand, the stakes are even higher. We believe you deserve a truly objective opinion. We think you deserve to consider more of the available options. And we believe your financial future is worth a custom-tailored prescription to help you feel confident for the days ahead. If you'd like a second opinion on your current retirement strategy, simply contact our office today.
The U.S. dollar index, what is it and what does it really mean? So it started back in 1973 and it was a way to use our currency to compare it to the other world currencies. They baselined it at 100 and have essentially been tracking it ever since. Looking back at the end of 2021, it was hanging around 96, but ultimately it fluctuates on a daily basis. So what we're saying here is it's about as strong as where it stood back in 1973 in comparison to the other world currencies. So why is it that we follow this index? First, when we have a strong dollar, our exports are more costly, which essentially then hurts manufacturing. So if you traveled, say, to Mexico or Canada, you may have noticed if our currency was stronger, then you have better purchasing power. So things cost less, you get a bigger bang for your buck. But a strong dollar makes our exports more costly, and so those countries that are importing goods will have a competitive advantage because the goods, again, are less expensive, and again, that's a situation where it may hurt U.S. manufacturing. And manufacturing represents about 11% of our gross domestic product, so we want to be following that closely. Another reason to be paying attention to the dollar index is that all commodities are traded in U.S. dollars. So you'll notice that when the dollar weakens, commodity prices will rise. From a global perspective, you'll hear a lot about China and the trade wars and how their currency can be manipulated. So you hear about this with China because the Chinese government is involved in the public and private sectors and enterprises, and so they can manipulate their currency, and this can help them make their imports into our country less expensive, and this definitely makes for a competitive advantage. So again, we're hopeful that this, learning a little bit more about the U.S. dollar index, how it actually works, again going back to 1973, and what it looks like in comparison to the other world currencies. It's another piece of the overall economy and markets that you want to be paying close attention to better understand the whether we're in a position of power or not, and something to be paying close attention to in your overall retirement plan. If you have additional questions, we welcome you to give us a call. At Centennial Wealth Advisory, we take a holistic approach to your retirement planning. So it's not just looking at what your investments are, but what is that long-term income plan for the next 30, 40 years of your retirement? What about taxes and what role they play in your retirement plan? Estate planning, what about life insurance, health insurance planning, all key areas to consider when looking at your retirement. So please visit our website or call the number on the screen. We'd love the opportunity to sit down with you for a no-cost, no-obligation visit.
When you have confidence in your retirement future, you can live the life you've always imagined. Because of planning, you now have time to reflect on the wonderful memories of your life. You and your spouse finally have the luxury of leisure time together. To spend fun times with your grandkids, sharing the joy of their excitement about life. smiling at the thought of quality time with your children and of picking up the check. At last, you have time to breathe and rekindle the love of your life. Why? Because you imagined what could be. You planned for retirement. So today, you own your future.
So you've stopped working or you're planning to very soon. Likely that means your paycheck is going to stop from your employer. And maybe you're one of the folks out there now that isn't fortunate to have a pension like many used to in the past. So you likely have Social Security coming in and you have this pot of money that you've been saving for many years that now needs to start producing a paycheck. You know, there's something out there that people talk about as a withdrawal rate or maybe a safe withdrawal rate. What does that mean? Well, that's the percentage of the amount of money that's going to come out of that portfolio to produce that paycheck for you. Well, simply speaking, consider this. You know, if I'm taking, let's say, 4% out of my portfolio and my account is growing on average at greater than 4%, that typically works all day long, right? So if I'm only taking 4% and I'm basically just living off the interest, right? If my account's making 4 to 5%. So what is a safe withdrawal rate typically in today's standards? Well, Barron's have done numerous studies over time, and you'll see at this chart on the screen, it also depends on the level of risk you have associated with that portfolio. So obviously, the more risk you have the earnings potential or the appreciation potential is higher, right? Because you have a bigger threshold. But also remember, you have the greater downside exposure, and so your volatility can potentially be greater over that time. So what does that mean? That means that potentially your withdrawal percentage or safe withdrawal percentage is going to be less because of that volatility. If you're constantly moving up and down, it may not be able to be there consistently to be able to withdraw from. Think of it this way. This is an extreme example, but if you have a high risk portfolio and your portfolio dropped in half, and let's say you were taking 5% out, now all of a sudden that's a 10% withdrawal rate, meaning you have to make greater than 10% just to maintain your balance. Now that's a challenge over times. So when you are building your retirement plan, and even more importantly, building your retirement income plan, you have to be considering what this safe withdrawal rate is for you. In an ideal world, and you may have talked to, your parents or an elderly relative or friend, talked about, oh, just put your money in bonds, or that's what they did because they used to get 4 to 6% and life was easy at that point. Guess what? Interest rates are not that way anymore. So we have to be more prudent, more active with our management when we have those situations arise. So as you're starting to plan your map for retirement, or maybe you're freshly in that, let's talk about what that safe withdrawal rate is for you. And also, hopefully, that safe withdrawal rate matches up with what your needs and wants are. Because also remember, at 72, required minimum distributions start, and they're going to force upon you a withdrawal rate at that time. It starts off, it starts off pretty low, but then it rises over time. So at different points in your life, you're going to have different withdrawal rates. We'd love to talk to you about your retirement income plan and how that can make sure you can plan to retire well.
Hey, welcome back. Hopefully you got some helpful information about the dollar index and how it works. When I was listening to that, I thought it reminded me of a big trip in my life. It was 2008. My wife and I had been married a few years and no kids, and decided, hey, this is the time in our life to go backpack through Europe. And so, not knowing a lot of stuff, we basically booked a 7-week backpack trip through Europe. We went to 17 different cities. At that time, the dollar index, the dollar versus the euro, was not in our favor. It took $1.50 US to buy 1 euro. And so when we were on our trip, everything seemed so expensive, because to us and our money, it was. When you look at the dollar index right now, and you look at what a strong dollar might do for you, maybe you've always wanted to go on that overseas trip. And we might be in a time where, hey, our money is worth more over there. And if so, maybe that makes your trip a little bit more enjoyable. You know, one of the things that I love that we get to be able to do is try to help align life goals with people's current situation. And so when you find and listen to all this different information that we send your way, if you ever are curious about how that might really apply to you, feel free, give us a call, come on in, we'd all love to meet you.
Yeah, another topic that was discussed there in that segment was safe withdrawal rates. And I know that's always a big topic of concern when clients come into the office. And you know, a lot of clients, they often reference that old 4% rule as far as, okay, well, in retirement, I don't want to pull more than 4% of my total portfolio to live on for income. And basically the thought there is, well, we can't guarantee you're going to get 4%, but it's a safe rate of return, so you're just essentially living off the interest, right? Well, not everyone's situation is going to warrant that 4% rate, or maybe they need more, right? And so it's so important to make sure that you have an income plan that is dialed in for you. And that's something that here at Centennial Wealth, we can paint that picture. We have a software program that allows us to show you, hey, what does the next 20, 30 years look like, and where are we getting this income from? Which bucket are we pulling that money from to meet your needs? So hopefully you found that very valuable. Please stay tuned. Coming up next, we're going to be talking about the need for life insurance.
Will your money last as long as you do? Are you concerned about having enough savings to last through your retirement? Studies have shown that outliving their money in retirement is the #1 concern of most retirees, and rightfully so. Many have no idea if their money will last throughout retirement and don't know where to find answers to their questions. Centennial Wealth Advisory can help. We are financial professionals specializing in retirement planning. Call now to request a complimentary consultation and retirement income analysis that will answer your questions, such as, will I have enough money to last? How will the surviving spouse be taken care of? What impact will inflation have on my retirement income? How can I reduce my tax liability during retirement? And much more. Centennial Wealth Advisory serves all of northern Michigan with offices in Traverse City, Petoskey, Gaylord, and Cadillac. Call us today to request your complimentary meeting and retirement income analysis.
You made it. Years of hard work, investing, planning, and now you're here. The long-awaited reward you spent a lifetime looking forward to. But what now? After years of growing a nest egg, now you may want to manage it. Use it to fund your dreams. Make it last as long as you need it. And leave some for those you love. So what do? Wall Street continues to be uncertain, and some conservative options have dropped through the floor. How do you maintain opportunities for growth and reduce risk of loss from market changes? That's where we come in. We are financial professionals. From investments and insurance products to tax reduction strategies and guaranteed retirement income you cannot outlive, provided by the claims-paying ability of insurance companies. You've worked a lifetime to get here. Let us help you enjoy it to the fullest. For a complimentary consultation, simply contact us today.
Let's talk about the need for life insurance. So there's going to be different phases of life, and along with that comes different potential life insurance plans that you may find appropriate. So again, we're talking specifically about life insurance and planning. So with that, you know, when you're starting off, maybe you had a young family, married, maybe had children, might have major costs like a mortgage. You may be looking at for your children like future college expenses. So this is where typically you're looking for the lowest cost type of insurance with some type of term associated with it. So obviously there you're looking at a term life insurance policy. where again it's maybe a higher death benefit and a low cost. As you move on through life, you may be looking at, well, what about some type of cash value life insurance where you've put in some additional funds into that, and then if needed, you could always draw those cash value funds out. But you want to be careful with this. I've come across too often where people may have said, oh, my parents set up some type of whole life policy way back in the day, and I've just sort of let it go. Well, with that, you sometimes will find where the cash value gets eaten up by the costs of insurance, and potentially if you're not paying attention, then that policy may lapse. So again, something to be paying attention to. Later in life, you may be looking at maybe something more of like a permanent type of policy, something that you want to be there for the remainder of your lifetime. So that's where sometimes you may be considering like a guaranteed universal life insurance where you have set premiums and a set death benefit. So there's no moving parts. You're not going to get surprised by any rising insurance costs. And you want to look at, in those different scenarios, how you're going to fund the life insurance policy. Is it something where you want to have premium payments for the rest of your lifetime? Or perhaps you may want to pay that over a period of years where maybe even it's leading up prior to retirement. You could pay, when you have maybe additional cash flow, you could pay those premiums and then upon retirement not have any further premiums. So again, another way to be looking at it. And lastly, in retirement, you may have a desire to have like an accelerated chronic illness rider, which is essentially access to the death benefit in case of a long-term care situation. So there's different policies out there today that can be used for that purpose. And the last one that I can think of is mainly like a burial type of insurance coverage where you're essentially just covering those last costs that you may have. So again, a lot of different areas to consider. If you have questions about that, we welcome you to give us a call.
Hey, welcome back. That's a tough topic to be talking about, the need for life insurance. When you get into the depth of it and what it means, it's just not fun. So I see it get avoided all of the time. You know, personally, when I had to go through and analyze my own need for life insurance, I had to look at my own situation and what my goals were. I'm married, I have 4 young children. They have a lot of big expenses coming up in life. And so when I thought, hey, what do I need to put in place? How can I be proactive in this time? Life is so uncertain. You never know what's going to happen. And so for me, I wanted to get some things in place for the time being so that if I did pass away, that the people that I love the most would be taken care of. And so one thing with life insurance, though, is that it changes over time. You know, your situation is going to change. There's so many different life insurance options out there. It's something that we help people with all of the time. What's your current situation? What's your need for life insurance? Which product might be a best fit for you? So if you have any questions about what your need for life insurance is or how it might apply specifically to your situation, feel free to give us a call. Come meet. We can teach you, what is out there and how it might best help you be proactive in that stage of your life.
Yeah, I mean, everybody's situation is so unique, and oftentimes when you're in the retirement stage of life, you don't need as high of a life insurance benefit, or you might not need that same type of life insurance either. And that's where we can run these figures and show you, okay, well, what are the tax advantages to getting a life insurance policy? Maybe you're more legacy minded. I mean, the kids are all out of the house now, they've got good jobs, but you still want to leave them something in a tax advantageous way. And there's so many different products out there that it's just important to understand what your options are and get something that really fits and meets your needs. So hopefully you found that segment valuable. I know we love doing this every week for you guys, so don't stay tuned. Tune in next week, and same station, same time, and we'll have some more great information for you. Take care.